Welcome to the Rock Coding YouTube channel. My name is Anton, and today we're going to take a look at HTMX with ASP.NET Core. If you don't know what HTMX is, you're probably not spending your time on Twitter, which is probably a good thing. Otherwise, HTMX is a JavaScript library that allows you to manipulate the DOM, but in a slightly different way. If you watch this video, you're going to get an idea. And by the way, all the code is going to be available for free for this video. It's part of the hypertext expression library, which I've used in order to work with HTMX. And if you're not familiar with that library, it's basically to get around or get away from using Razor pages, because I don't like Razor pages. And if you want HTMX with Razor pages, there are tutorials available online by Khaled, which are really good. And I think he has written some libraries in order to work with HTML with Razor pages a little bit more conveniently. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check it out. I'm going in a slightly different direction, a little bit more experimental. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and stick around. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. And I have a C# course that is out. If you would like to know C# as I do, I highly recommend you take a look at it. Let's go ahead and jump in. So part of the hypertext expression repository, we have the samples and HTMX in project. In program CS, we have a couple of routes where on the homepage, all I'm doing is I'm rendering classes with the samples attribute. So it doesn't really matter that much, but this is how I am declaring what HTML I want. So for example, here, I'm not using HTMX yet. This is this library that I have written. It's 100% C#. You write your C# code, you write more C# code, and you get results. Hopefully you can take a look at this and you can think back to when you were learning Razor pages and you're like, I need to add some service. There is some HTTP context. When I'm editing this Razor file, there is just a bunch of things that I need to be aware of, special tags, none of that. You basically throw away any specific things you need to know about Razor pages. You are just writing these static functions, and otherwise you're specifying tuples, etc. Right? So if you want to take a look at what this looks like, right, it's just another HTML element that you can also specify. So the library is really just a minimal collection of constructs and a bunch of helper functions. Okay. This is what's being used to render this page, and the first example that we're going to take a look at is the infinite load. So for the infinite load, we have this landing page where we have the title. We then have some attributes in order to set the width on the page. So currently it looks like this. If I expand it, you can see it assumes a maximum width. But with the load more button, let's say I want to load more, it's going to load more. And well, that's basically how it works. So very basic. How does it actually work? When I'm declaring my div, which contains an attribute of lorem, I'm putting lorem ipsum messages into there. So for some kind of range, I'm going to use a random library to generate some lorem ipsum text, and I'm going to put that into an HTML element p paragraph. I'm going to convert that into array, put it here, and voila, this is rendered. Okay. So for the load more button, which I'm putting down here, and by the way, HTMX script, again, all of these are just HTML elements from this hypertext expression library where I'm saying I want script, this should contain a source of this, some other attributes, and yeah, that I now basically have a reusable component that I can use across my whole code base and perhaps make some kind of library. So the load more button, it's a div with some attributes that puts it in the center. And now this is where HTMX comes in. Really simple notation. We want to execute a GET request on this endpoint. The load more endpoint reuses the lorem ipsum generation code and just converts it to the I result. We then say that we want to put the result into this CSS selector, which is going to add it to this div with this identifier. Now, how it's going to add is going to be determined by this hx swap. Here it says before end, which means it's going to append it before end. You have different strategies like replacing inner HTML, replacing outer HTML before a start. So there are a couple of variations that you can choose here. So this is one of the most simplest things that you can build here. Next, what I went to build is a simple to-do app. Let's go ahead and open this up, ToDo. This is slightly bigger. We land on the app and we get something like this. Again, still the head, still we have the body. Again, a couple of styles, attributes on the div. We then have H1 for my to-dos. We then have a div with an identifier that it's a to-do list, and I have my to-dos, which is basically a database where I get my to-dos from and I render them. So I have a function for rendering to-dos. And then at the bottom over here, I have this input where hopefully you can guess what kind of attributes I'm putting here. And then once I press the button add, it is going to execute a post request. It's going to encode my information as JSON because I'm posting to minimal APIs. And then whatever response I get, I wanted to put the result in the to-do list. And then I'm also utilizing an HTMX event, which says after the request, go ahead and just clear the input list. Now, for rendering the to-dos itself, each individual to-do is a form. We have the span to just display the identifier. We then have the input for the checkbox. We have a couple of hidden inputs to grab a bunch of information. It contains a little bit more logic than it really needs to because I was playing around with some stuff. So I thought, it's all right. I will take all of this stuff. Like, for example, I could have gone away with a toggle, but over here for this input, I decided to specify what value is going to be set when I submit the form rather than to just toggle it on and off. Okay. Then depending if the to-do is done or not, I put a strike through it. And here I have the delete. So if I press on the delete button over here, it's going to execute this request. And again, the result of this should just go into the to-do list. So for both of this and for when I add a to-do, because I don't have a swap strategy, what's really going to happen is it's just going to re-render the whole to-do list. And the way that I'm re-rendering the to-do list over here, you can guess that when I access these endpoints like add to-do, so add to-do, all I'm doing is the same logic to result and I return it. If I delete it to-do, same logic to result, return it. So do whatever updating I need on the backend, re-render the whole thing, and HTMX just takes care of updating it. If you're somebody from the jQuery times where posting data, getting back HTML and inserting it into specific elements is all you did before all of these frameworks, this should look super familiar. This is like the perfect tool for that time, but it is becoming actually popular and relevant today. Again, to come back to the top, I render the document. I have my section for rendering to-dos. The rest is just regular logic for adding a to-do. I manipulate my data structure. I then have an update to-do. Again, I manipulate this logic. And, well, what does this actually look like? So if I check and check, the state is persisted on the backend. I can uncheck everything if I want to. I can delete something. I can add more tasks, and refreshing basically confirms that this is all on the backend. All right. And all of this information is persisted. So if I leave and come back, this information is still there. So it's functioning, just in case anybody thinks there's smoke and mirrors. It's not. All right. So the next one is the registration screen. Again, just to highlight how this may work and perhaps some of the features. So minimal setup, HTML doc, I render the form, and then again, I'm reusing the scripts over here. For when I render the form, I actually pass the form, and perhaps I'm going to have validation errors. For this, I am rendering some attributes on the form. Where do I want to post the form? How do I want to encode this? What do I want to replace, which is this form element? And what do I actually want to swap, which is inner HTML? And I think I don't need it, but just because I'm demoing now, I'm going to leave it there. So my screen real estate right now is a little bit smaller, so I'm actually going to edit this a little bit. Here, I'm rendering an input. I am supplying some kind of attributes over here. So for example, when the form resets, I want to clear passwords, but I want to keep the username. For the password and confirm password, when I'm changing these, I want to add hooks and to actually validate the password on the fly. Here we have a trigger that once we have a key up event or the value has changed, wait for 500 milliseconds. If you keep typing, the event is going to be restarted. So once 500 milliseconds of no typing passes, we want to submit the information to validate password. Here, you can basically validate the password on the back end. Is it a strong password, weak password? Is it a known password? If you have emails, you can do exactly the same. I'm not swapping anything, but however, what I can do is I can still return validation errors, which are going to be inserted somewhere in this DOM. We have the render inputs, and then we have the button, which is going to submit the form. Let's take a look at the render input. Super simple. Input, I'm also passing a name, which is going to correlate with the render validation errors, and that's why I'm not really passing it in with these attributes. However, when I'm rendering this input, I'm attaching this to the rest of the attributes. For the render validation, we have a UL which has an identifier of validation errors, and here I'm making use of this name, really the key on the form. All right, so if we take a look at the form, we have username, and this is how I like to do my validators. I have whatever command form I'm submitting, and the validation sits on that command or form. I have some validation for the username, for the password, for the confirm password, and on the password, here is the validate password function, which gets triggered if password or confirm password gets updated. And the interesting thing about this function is that I'm just re-rendering the validation errors, and I'm changing the attributes that I'm putting on there, and I'm attaching only the HX swap OOB attribute, where OOB stands for out of bounds. So swap out of bounds, what it's going to do is whatever identifier is present on this UL, it's going to find an already present element on here, which for example would be right over here, which is empty. It will find this element and it will actually replace it. So the validate password function may return two divs, one for password, one for confirm password, and it's going to put it in two places. One below the password over here and one below the confirm password over here. And you're going to see that in just a second. And then we have the submit, where we perform the full validation. And if it's not valid, we re-render the form with the validation errors. Otherwise, redirects are a little bit iffy in HTMX. You can't really redirect unless you indicate to HTMX with a specific error. However, what you can do is you can actually just return whatever you want. So for example, if you submit something like a registration form, you may not even want to redirect. You might want to just say, yo, go confirm your email address, okay? And that is pretty much it for this. Let's go ahead and take a look at how this works, and we can also take a look at the network tab. So for example, here I'm going to type in 1234 big Q W E R, and here you can see this request that's going out here, which is the one with the 500 milliseconds delay. Here is what this looks like. So the payload looks like so, and then the response looks like so. So we have two ULs and the identifiers which get inserted at their respective corrective places, right? If I press sign up, it attempts to validate anything, and I don't have the same validation logic on that submission. It just tries to validate that password on the fly, and it's hard to, again, it's not meant to be super correct, just to basically highlight how it works. So let's go ahead and create a user. Anton password can be 123QWE, and I'll put a Y on the end. And we'll do the same here. So you can see for both of these, the validation happens on the fly, and these are requests that are going out to the backend. So if you need audit trail that is this specific, perhaps actually HTMX might be the perfect tool for you. And when we sign up with this, again, we don't necessarily change the route, we just get a different view. So you still have that spa-like experience, because all that HTMX is really doing is just Ajax, but on steroids, okay? And this will be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Have you tried HTMX yet? If so, please let me know what you think. Have you tried it with ASP.NET Core, any other server programming language? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section. If you would like the source code for this video, it is available for free. Link is in the description. However, still please consider supporting me on Patreon. I will really appreciate it. A big and special thank you goes out to all of my Patreon supporters. You really help me make these videos. As always, thank you for watching. Have a good day.